Adimpe stirred the pot of wedu soup, ignoring her sister's warning. Adimpe, you'll regret feeding that hungry man when you become successful yourself, her sister had said, her voice sharp and skeptical. Adimpe laughed softly and shook her head. She didn't see it that way. Love and loyalty mattered more than anything else. She believed in kindness. And when a man arrived at her door that rainy day, drenched and shivering, she didn't hesitate. She could see his struggle, his hunger, the way life had worn him down. She didn't care that he was poor or ragged. She cared that he had a dream. His name was Tund. He was 26, but life had aged him. He had traveled from Ibadan to Lagos, chasing a dream to be a fashion designer. He worked as an apprentice in a small workshop, where the master barely paid him, made him sleep on the floor, and beat him when mistakes were made. He had nothing. Yet, when he spoke of his designs and the future he imagined, there was a fire in his eyes. Adimpe listened. She really listened. As they waited for the rain to stop, she invited him inside. "Come eat," she said simply. That night, for the first time in months, Tund ate like a man who had forgotten what being full felt like. Jollof rice, dodo, fried fish, all prepared with care. "You cook like my mother used to," he said, eyes glistening. Adimpe smiled. "Then honor her by not wasting it," she replied. Over the next few months, something changed. Tund shared his sketches with her. Bold, creative, traditional patterns fused with modern cuts. Agbadar reimagined. Iro Ambuba with avant-garde designs that seemed impossible. "These are beautiful," Adimpe whispered, her fingers brushing over the designs. "They'll never happen," Tund said bitterly. "I don't have money. My master won't let me work on personal projects. I'm nobody." Adimpe looked at him, thinking carefully. Then, almost impulsively, she said, "What if I helped you?" Tund blinked. "Help how?" "I have access to fabric scraps, remnants, cheap or free. You have the skill. Together we could start something." Tund stared at her in disbelief. "Why would you do this for me?" Adimpe shrugged shyly. "Because I believe in you. Dreams shouldn't die just because nobody else sees them yet." That night, they spread fabric scraps across the floor like a rainbow and started creating. They became partners, not lovers, but something deeper, a shared hope and trust. Tund stitched and cut late into the night. Adimpe cooked, encouraged, and prayed over his hands before he began each piece. 3 months later, their first collection was ready. 5 pieces that blended tradition and innovation. Adimpe used her savings to rent a small space at a weekend market in Lekki. The first customers hesitated, glanced at the pieces, then paused. One elegant woman picked up a dress. "Who made this?" she asked. Tund stepped forward, voice shaking. "I did, Ma." She bought 3 pieces and showed her friends. Word spread. 6 months later, Tund's designs were in demand. Bankers' wives, young professionals, society women, all wanted something unique. Adimpe convinced her aunt to let him use a corner of the market shop during weekdays. She posted photos on Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook. She became his manager, marketer, cook, and cheerleader, all without asking for anything in return. Slowly, Tund moved out of his cramped workshop into a small room near Adimpe's. They saw each other daily. He called her my queen, held her hand in the market, and kissed her forehead when she brought midnight meals. "I couldn't do this without you," he whispered one night, exhausted but happy. "We're doing it together," she replied. But as their success grew, so did Tund's attention to others. He followed fashion influencers online, studying their looks, their style, their thin, polished images. One evening, Adimpe brought fried rice and chicken she had bought with her lunch money. Tund barely looked up. "You know, I'm trying to eat healthier," he said. Adimpe set the food down quietly. Her heart ached, but she said nothing. She had learned to absorb the pain, to protect the fragile peace between them. Then came the big break. A popular fashion blogger, Zainab, found Tund's work online. "I love your designs," she wrote. "We should collaborate." Tund was ecstatic. "Do you know what this means?" he said. "If Zainab wears my work, I'll blow up." Adimpe smiled through her worry. "That's wonderful, Tund," she said. The collaboration happened quickly. Zainab wore his designs, posted photos, and orders exploded. Tund hired assistants, rented a proper workshop, and started attending high-profile events. Adimpe felt out of place at these glamorous gatherings, but she stayed by his side. She had believed in him when no one else did. She had given him food, time, and faith. She had built his first steps to success. But little did she know, the challenges of success and jealousy were just beginning. Success arrived quickly for Tund, and with it, a change in him that Adimpe could feel but couldn't yet name. He was no longer the hungry, determined young man who had arrived at her doorstep. Now he was a rising star, admired, photographed, and envied. Adimpe still stood by him, cooking meals, delivering encouragement, and managing his growing business. But something had shifted. One evening, she arrived at his small workshop with a plate of fried rice and chicken. She had spent her lunch money to buy it. Wanting to surprise him, Tund barely looked up. "You know, I'm trying to eat healthier," he said. His tone was casual, but Adimpe felt a sting. "Since when?" she asked softly. "Since I realized I need to look the part," he replied. "If I want to be taken seriously in the industry, I have to fit the image." Adimpe put the plate down quietly, her heart heavy. She ate alone that night, telling herself it was just stress, just the pressure of new success. But the words, small as they seemed, began to cut. Then came the Instagram collaboration with Zainab, the light-skinned, thin fashion influencer with hundreds of thousands of followers. She loved Tund's designs, and soon, orders exploded. Suddenly, Tund was busy with events, photo shoots, and high-profile clients. He hired assistants and moved into a larger, more expensive workspace. Adimpe felt proud but also invisible. At a fashion showcase in Victoria Island, Adimpe wore her best Ankara dress. She felt clumsy and out of place among the polished, thin, designer-clad attendees. Tund introduced her briefly. "This is Adimpe. She helps with logistics. Not, this is the woman who fed me when I was starving. She believed in me when no one else did. Just logistics." Zainab smiled and lingered too close to him, chatting, laughing, and posing for photos. Adimpe overheard women whispering about her. "Did you see Tund's friend? The big one? Yeah. Surprised he brought her. Maybe she's his sister. He won't keep her long. Not if he wants to stay relevant." Adimpe locked herself in the bathroom, hiding tears she hadn't felt in years. She cried silently, feeling invisible and unvalued, despite everything she had done for him. At home that night, Tund called her Bimpi, kissed her forehead distractedly, and said, "I couldn't have done this without your support." Support? Not partnership. Not love. Just support. 2 weeks later, she visited him with his favorite egusi soup, a labor of love she had prepared carefully. She found him with Zainab, heads close over sketches. "Bimpe," he said, slightly startled. "What are you doing here?" "I brought you food," she said, hopeful. "I thought I told you I'm trying to eat cleaner now. All this heavy soup, it's not good for my image." His words shattered something inside her. Food had always been her love language, her way of caring, and now it had become a weapon against her, a symbol of rejection. "Can you return those fabric samples to your aunt's shop?" he asked later. "I don't need them anymore. I'm sourcing internation." "Ali, now?" Something inside Adimpe snapped. She walked away without a word, feeling the weight of betrayal crush her chest. That night, Tund messaged her, "We need to talk." They met at a cafe. He arrived late, distracted, scrolling through his phone. "You've been amazing, Adimpe," he began. "Truly. I'll always be grateful for everything you did for me. But things are different now." "Different how?" "Zainab understands the industry. She has connections. She fits the brand aesthetic. I need someone who looks the part, photographs well. Someone not fat." Adimpe's chest tightened. The word convenient echoed in her mind. That's how he saw her. Not as a partner, not as someone who gave her heart freely, just convenient. "I gave you everything," she whispered. "My money, my time, my faith. I believed in you when no one else did. And I'm grateful," he said. "But gratitude isn't love. I was never in love with you. You are convenient." Adimpe left, heartbroken, and disappeared for 3 weeks. She called in sick to work, ignored her family's calls, and spent hours replaying every meal, every prayer, every act of care she had given him. She scrolled through Instagram and saw them everywhere. Tund and Zainab at fashion shows, parties, on magazine covers. Comments praised them as couple goals, fashion royalty, perfect. Food, the one thing that had always comforted her, became her only companion. She binged to numb the pain. Loaves of bread, chin-chin, whatever she could find. Her sister, Fake, finally forced her way into the apartment. "Bimpe, what is wrong with you? You look terrible." "I loved him," Adimpe whispered. "No," Fake said firmly. "You loved what you thought he could become. You loved the dream. He never loved you. He loved what you could do for him." Adimpe listened, the words cutting deep, but also sparking the first glimmer of clarity. That night, staring at her cracked mirror, she saw herself clearly for the first time in weeks. Swollen eyes, puffy face, but more than that, she saw the truth. She wasn't convenient. She was a blessing he was too blind to see. For the first time, Adimpe made a decision, not to seek revenge, not to plead, but to rebuild herself for herself. After the painful breakup with Tund, Adimpe disappeared from the world for a while. She stayed inside her small room, curtains drawn, avoiding phone calls, messages, and even her family. The betrayal had cut deep, and the world felt heavy. She replayed every moment, the meals she'd cooked, the prayers she'd whispered over his hands, the nights spent on the floor helping him build his dream. All of it, ignored. For days she let herself feel the pain. She cried, sometimes so hard that her whole body shook. She ate to numb the hurt, grabbing whatever she could find. Chin-chin, bread, anything that would fill the emptiness. But amidst the despair, a small voice inside her whispered, "You are more than this pain. You are not defined by someone else's blindness." Her sister Fake finally broke through. Sitting beside her on the floor, she said gently but firmly, "Bimpe, he isn't worth this. Anyone who judges you by your body doesn't deserve your heart." Adimpe listened. Slowly the words sank in. She realized she had loved not the man, but the dream of what he could become. And that dream was never hers to own. It was time to reclaim herself. The next morning, Adimpe made her brave choice. She booked a therapy session. She began meeting Mrs. Okonko, a kind, patient therapist who taught her that healing is not linear. Some days you move forward, some days you stumble, but as long as you keep moving, you are winning. She also joined a gym with a trainer who emphasized strength and health, not appearance. She learned to care for her body, to honor it instead of punishing it. Slowly, she discovered that she could eat without guilt, that food was not her enemy, and that nourishment was a form of love for herself. Each day she journaled. Each page helped her untangle the chaos of her mind, put words to her grief, and slowly, painfully, build her own self-worth. 6 months later, the first sign of real change arrived. She woke up one morning and didn't immediately think of Tund. She realized she was healing, and with that clarity came another decision. She would no longer work at her aunt's fabric store. She had spent years helping others shine. Now it was time for her own light to grow. Adimpe started a bridal styling business. She helped brides choose fabrics, coordinate colors, and create beautiful wedding aesthetics. At first, she worked from home, posting photos on Instagram, joining planning groups, and slowly gaining clients. Each satisfied bride brought more referrals, and her reputation began to grow. Within a year, she had a small office in Yaba, hired an assistant, and was being featured in wedding blogs. Adimpe had built a name for herself. Not because she had changed her body or appearance, but because she was talented, dedicated, and kind. She was finally recognized for her own work. Then came a call that changed everything. Africa Fashion Week. They wanted her to style models for a major showcase. At first, she hesitated. The fashion world still felt like Tund's territory. But she remembered Mrs. Okonko's words, "You don't need permission to take up space." She said yes. The week of the event was chaotic, coordinating fabrics, managing models, and ensuring every detail was perfect. On the night of the showcase, Adimpe arrived early, stunning in a carefully styled outfit. People whispered, "Who is that?" "She's gorgeous." Focused on her work, Adimpe didn't notice the attention until she saw him, Tund, across the crowded room with Zanab nowhere in sight. He looked successful, polished, expensive. But when his eyes landed on her, everything stopped. His mouth fell open. Gone was the tearful, insecure girl he had left behind. Adimpe stood tall, glowing with confidence. Strong, healthy, unapologetic, Tund excused himself from a group of sponsors and walked toward her. "Pimpe," he said softly. Adimpe turned, calm and composed. "Tunde," no anger, no longing, just polite distance. You look amazing," he stammered. "Thank you," she replied steadily. "I feel amazing." He swallowed hard, trying to regain his composure. "I heard you were styling tonight. That's incredible." She nodded. "Excuse me, I have work to do." And she walked away. He called after her, "Can we talk after the show?" "About what?" she asked. "About us? About everything?" "There is no us, Tund. There never really was," she said gently. "The show went perfectly." Adimpe's styling received praise from everyone. Bold colors, elegant simplicity, perfect balance. At the end, she was called on stage to take a bow. The applause was deafening. She felt proud, not for him, not for the industry, but for herself. After the showcase, Tund approached her alone. "I made a mistake," he admitted, voice breaking. "I was shallow, blind, stupid. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me because I couldn't see your worth." Adimpe smiled, not in triumph, not in revenge, but with calm wisdom. "You didn't throw away the best thing," she said softly. "You revealed who you really are, and in doing so, you gave me the greatest gift." "What gift?" he asked. "You taught me that I don't need anyone else to see my worth for it to exist. I already know it." She touched his shoulder lightly. "I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean going backward. I hope you find peace, Tund. I already have." And with that, she walked away. Not running, not looking back. Just moving forward into the life she had built from heartbreak. 6 months later, her business had tripled. She had styled 3 major campaigns, been featured in top magazines, and had a team of 5 assistants. But more importantly, she had found peace and self-love. Love found her again. Not in grand gestures, but in quiet, consistent ways. Faye, a gentle architect, appreciated her for who she was. Her laugh, her poetry, her wisdom, not her appearance. For the first time, she felt seen, valued, and safe. Tund's world, by contrast, had shifted. His brand faced challenges, his arrogance made enemies, and his personal life was complicated. Adimpe didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She had learned the most important lesson. The person who stays when you have nothing is priceless. The one who leaves when you have everything teaches a lesson. Your worth was ever theirs to determine. And Adimpe looked at herself in the mirror. Not perfect, not flawless, but whole, strong, loved, enough, and that was more than enough. And so, Adimpe's story reminds us all, the greatest love you will ever live is the one you give yourself. The person who stays when you have nothing is priceless. The one who leaves when you gain everything teaches you that your worth was never theirs to decide. You don't need anyone else to validate your value. You don't need permission to take up space. You are enough, exactly as you are, strong, kind, and full of potential. Adimpe learned that heartbreak can become a stepping stone, pain can become wisdom, and loss can lead to freedom. She walked forward with her head high, her heart whole, and her life full of purpose. So choose yourself, love yourself, and remember, your story, your life, your value are yours to write. Tell us in the comments below what lesson this story taught you. If you enjoyed this story, give us a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and stay blessed.